Hello students, my name is Nidhi Singh and I am from Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Hyderabad. Today we will be discussing about surrogacy process and various issues and concerns associated with it. Surrogacy means the practice by which a woman, called a surrogate mother, becomes pregnant and gives birth to a baby for couples who are genetical parents to the child. A woman who helps a couple to have a child by carrying to term an embryo conceived by the couple and transferred to her uterus for the gestational career. Surrogacy comes from the Latin word surrogere, which means to put in another's place or to substitute. The ancient history related to different religions show this practice of surrogacy and its role in the family. In ancient Hindu society, there existed a practice known as Niyog Pratha, wherein a woman who was childless because her husband was impotent was allowed to conceive through her brother-in-law. The child belonged to the couple and the brother-in-law had no claim over it. Niyog Pratha was surrogate fatherhood. It was much less complicated legally and emotionally than surrogate motherhood. Surrogate mothers are not a new solution to the old problem of not being able to reproduce an offspring. The basic concept dates back at least 4,000 years to Rachel, wife of Jacob, the father of the 12 tribes of Israel. Unable to bear children, Rachel sent her husband into the tent of her maid Bilhah. It was understood that the child born of that union belonged to Jacob and Rachel. Surrogacy has been seen around a long time and dates back to biblical times. Some say it all started with Sarah and Abraham. Certain people say it started even before them and that it is only recorded about Abraham because he was written about in the Bible. If we look at the history of surrogacy, it really began in the late 1800s with the American Indians who were the first to truly begin the surrogate mother history. If an Indian woman was found to be infertile, then her husband would go to the chief of his tribe and ask for help. He would then be sent to see the medicine man, who would give the wife certain herbal concoctions. Then, after the witch doctor said nothing could be done to help his wife, the husband would go to see the chief. He would be allowed to take another woman and make her pregnant, hopefully, so that he would be able to father a son to carry on his tribe. The barren wife would have no biological ties to the child. The American Indians were not the only cultural group to use surrogacy as a means to carry the family name. It has been known about throughout Europe and Spain and other such places. King would often bring in several surrogates until one bore him a son. Then the surrogates would be kept as nannies to the child. The child would believe the king and queen were its biological parents and know nothing about its genetic ties to the nanny. Often things of this matter were kept secret. Because of such things got out of the kingdom, one could question the child's right to the throne. However, the modern concept of surrogacy dates back to mid-1970s when the first official legal surrogacy agreement was enacted. Noel Kien, the lawyer who wrote the first surrogacy contract, went on to found the Infertility Center, a company that till date arranges numerous surrogate births every year. During that same period, surrogacy made headlines with the birth of Louis Joy Brown, the world's first test tube baby. While this was not exactly a case of surrogacy, it paved the way for what is today known as gestational surrogacy, a process where the biological parent's sperm and ovum undergo a process called IVF, in vitro fertilization, and are subsequently implanted into the womb of a surrogate mother. However, the first traditional paid surrogacy arrangement was conducted in 1980 where a 37-year-old woman acted as a surrogate and was paid $10,000 upon the successful delivery of the baby. 3 years later, pregnancy via egg donation was attempted. In this case, a woman was able to give birth via the use of eggs donated by another. This later led to the first successful gestational surrogacy in 1985. Like in other countries, in India also the following two types of surrogacy arrangements are being practiced. Altruistic surrogacy, where the surrogate mother receives no financial rewards for her pregnancy or the relinquishment of the child to the genetic parents except necessary medical expenses. Commercial surrogacy, where the surrogate mother is paid over and above the necessary medical expenses. Surrogacy is a social act of the highest level of service which is scientific and brims with goodwill. A person's opinion based on a lack of information should not harm others. Like medicine is prescribed for treatment of a disorder, in the same way, surrogacy is also a method of treatment. Bhadraka in 2009 reported that the majority of the Indian society considered surrogate mother as an amalgam of religion, culture and science with following noble services. 1. She shows a strong inclination to society by doing something noble. 2. She abolishes the stigma of infertility from the society. And 3. She fulfills her duty by doing something worthwhile for the society, and she is an example of a model woman in the society. As per the proposed draft Assisted Reproductive Technology Bill, the surrogacy and related terms are defined in the following ways. 1. Surrogacy means an arrangement in which a woman agrees to a pregnancy achieved through assisted reproductive technology in which neither of the gametes belong to her or her husband with the intention to carry it to term and to hand over the child to the person or persons for whom she is acting as a surrogate. 2. Surrogate mother means a woman who agrees to have an embryo generated from the sperm of a man who is not her husband and the oocyte of another woman, implanted in to carry the pregnancy to full term and deliver the child to its biological parents. And 3. Surrogacy arrangement means a contract between the persons availing of assisted reproductive technology and the surrogate mother. Surrogacy, we'll look at the international scenario now. Laws differ widely from one country to another. In England, commercial surrogacy arrangements are not legal and are prohibited by the Surrogacy Arrangement Act of 1985. A surrogate mother still maintains the legal right for the child even if they are genetically unrelated. Unless a parental order or adoption order is made, the surrogate mother remains the legal mother of the child. Status of surrogacy in USA. In USA, the surrogacy and its attendants legal issues fall under state jurisdiction and it differs from state to state. Some states facilitate surrogacy and surrogacy contracts, others simply refuse to enforce them, and some penalize commercial surrogacy. In Canada, the Assisted Human Reproduction Act permits only altruistic surrogacy. Surrogate mothers may be reimbursed for approved expenses, but payment for any other consideration or fee is illegal. Status of surrogacy in Australia. In Australia, all states permit altruistic surrogacy and it is recognized as legal. Except Tasmania, it bans all surrogacy under the Surrogacy Contracts Act of 1993. However, in all the states, arranging commercial surrogacy is a criminal offence. Status of surrogacy in South Africa. The South Africa Children's Act of 2005 enabled the commissioning parents and the surrogate to have their surrogacy agreement validated by the High Court even before fertilization. This allows the commissioning parents to be recognized as legal parents from the outset of the process and helps prevent uncertainty. Status of surrogacy in Asian countries. In Japan, the Social Council of Japan proposed a ban on surrogacy, and doctors, agents, and clients will be punished for commercial surrogacy arrangements. In Saudi Arabia, religious authorities do not allow the use of surrogate mothers. In China, Ministry of Health banned surrogacy in 2001. Despite this regulation, it is reported that illegal surrogacy black market is still flourishing in China. Anxious about such situation, strict legislation has been suggested by the political parties. Now we'll look at the legal aspects related with surrogacy. In Sweden, surrogacy is not clearly regulated. The legal procedure most equivalent to it is making an adoption of a child from the surrogate mother. It is illegal for Swedish fertility clinics to make surrogate arrangements. In Ukraine, surrogacy is completely legal. Only married couples can legally go through gestational surrogacy in Ukraine. In Russia, commercial gestational surrogacy is legal and available for willing adults. There has to be a certain medical indication for surrogacy. Foreigners have the same rights as for the assisted reproduction as the Russian citizens. In Bulgaria, surrogacy was previously illegal, but as the procedure is still practiced illegally, the government decided to sanction it. Instead of using the term surrogate, though, Bulgaria calls it the substitute mother. In Georgia of Europe, surrogacy is legal, but their surrogate mother cannot exercise any parental control over the child. Some countries such as Poland and Romania, among others, have no defined surrogacy laws, and while it's still possible to undergo the surrogacy process in those nations, as it can be seen, laws on surrogacy in Europe are varied and from some countries vague and non-existent. We'll have a look now at the health risk associated with surrogacy. In the US, surrogates are given no more than two embryos for their safety, whereas in India, surrogates are implanted with up to 5 embryos in order to increase the chance of pregnancy. Using such a large number of embryos increases health risk for the babies and for the mother. Chances of postpartum depression of surrogates are more with the child that grew in mother's womb. Pregnancy, birth, and postpartum period includes complications such as pre-eclampsia and eclampsia, urinary tract infections, stress incontinence, hemorrhoids, gestational diabetes, life-threatening hemorrhage, and pulmonary embolism. Multiple pregnancy increases the likelihood of requiring an operative delivery. A surrogate host of advanced maternal age has increased risk of perinatal mortality, perinatal death, intrauterine fetal death, neonatal death. There is a greater risk to the mother of pregnancy-induced hypertension, stroke, and placental abruption. When hormones or drugs the surrogate is instructed to take, all drugs have side effects. Many women undergoing artificial insemination also take fertility treatments, increasing the likelihood of an adverse reaction and risk involved with the procedure. Issues such as premature delivery, genetic malformation, and infections which lead to increased hospitalization of newborn are important issues to be considered in a surrogacy contract. Many surrogate mothers breastfeed the newborn during the first few hours following birth. However, parents find difficulty in initiating the breastfeeding and in establishing the bonding between mother and child in case of surrogacy. One of the major drawbacks of induced lactation in most surrogate or adopting mothers rarely produce the same quantity of breast milk as a new mother immediately following childbirth. This presents a problem in terms of infant nutrition. A surrogacy arrangement or surrogacy agreement is the carrying of a pregnancy for intended parents. Here both husband and wife provide their sperm and egg respectively, and the fetus will grow in the womb of another person. This technology mostly helps those couples who vehemently deserve their own child, irrespective of its place of development from single cell to a full-grown baby. This technology needs well-developed medical systems and high level of financial affordability. This can also be linked with celebrity couples. On the one hand, it could also be a financial source for the surrogate's livelihood for solving her family's financial problems. The clinics which provide surrogacy services can have a handful of women who can accept to bear the child till delivery. They accept it by looking at the monetary benefits but ignore its detrimental health aspects. This practice also shows regional variations and is limited to only private hospitals. The developed regions can set up these hospitals. This facility can also be extended to couples residing in other countries. In common language, this is called as renting of womb. After delivering their beloved child, the woman who carried the baby in her womb cannot find any place near to the baby and to her healthcare services. This practice, mostly related to celebrity couples who can afford money rather than their precious time to bear pregnancy. International couples come to India, pay money for this process and take the baby if everything moves smoothly. Otherwise, they abandon the child on the basis of citizenship norms of their respective countries. So the technology scars the innocent baby who does not know the reason of its birth. The recent announcement of Ministry of Health and Family Welfare in 2015 has instructions regarding surrogacy. According to this, the surrogacy clinics should not import human embryo for offering surrogacy, and no visa should be issued by the Indian missions to foreign nationals intending to visit India for commissioning surrogacy. Therefore, surrogacy services have to be offered only to Indian nationals. This can prevent foreign nationals to hire local women for surrogacy. We'll have a look at the MNCs regarding this surrogacy. Reproductive health technology always moves with new intentions. The society ultimately has the power to utilize it for positive and progressive aspects. The recent announcements by Apple and Facebook related to egg freezing facility for their women employees made a debate in academia. According to MNCs, the multinational companies, this facility can provide women employees to continue their career without interruption. The empowerment of women and the uplift of her status in the society are important factor and everybody desires it. Reproductive health mostly revolves around a woman. She has to continue her role after childbirth. The reproductive age of women is 15 to 49 years. It starts with menarche and concludes with menopause. It is a natural selection. Early childbirth and late childbirth both are not advisable as per maternal and child health norms. These age factors are not only for health purpose but also for child rearing process. Still, mother plays a key role in any society regarding inner child development. As a great supporter for adolescent child, she contributes much more than father. Mother's love has no equals. Mother should be empowered socially, economically, and also in health aspect. Every age has its limitations and accordingly, one has to perform, and even though willpower can motivate one, physical energy still puts restrictions. The egg freezing can help to postpone conception and help growth in professional life, but contribution to family life can still be a questionable aspect. Humans still depend on nature and follow certain natural norms. If these MNCs are really interested in women and her empowerment, they have to plan alternative strategies like to provide crèche facility near to workplace, helper, nanny who can take care of the child, and incentives like maternal and paternal leave. After ICPD 1994, male involvement has become mandatory. Also, given the technology, the person can work properly from the houses so that initial childcare can be provided from the home itself. The physician and other health professions should begin to discuss and explain fertility preservation early during an adult's life and to help young women and men to understand all options regarding childbearing before their marriage. There have been considerable medical and ethical concerns about the generally unregulated expansion of ART, including the use of surrogacy, international medical tourism to seek less expensive access to these technologies, and the exploitation on women in less developed countries as gestational carriers for embryo conceived in some countries and taken to other countries. The use of ART is largely unregulated. There is wide variation on how the technologies are used. Although guidelines are available, compliance is purely voluntary and the transparency of some ART practices are dubious. Brezina and Zhao discussed the ethical, legal and social issues impacted by modern assisted reproductive technologies. Eckerick explained ethical complexity and relational autonomy in staff accounts of pre-implantation genetic diagnosis (PGD) in choosing embryos. They therefore argue that these new forms of choice pose a challenge to conventional models of individual autonomy used in UK genetic and reproductive counseling, and that relational autonomy may be a more suitable ethical model to describe the ethical principles being drawn on by staff working in this area. Wammenberg inferred that more important, without an active ethics review board, there is no public mechanism for addressing the ethical and social concerns that research on reproductive health can arouse. These concerns are many, and the ethical positions on each can be wide-ranging. A draft law that aims to make surrogacy legal and transparent in India was cleared by the Cabinet. The Surrogacy Bill, introduced in 2016, seeks to protect the rights of both the surrogate and the child. The government has announced that it will take up the bill in the winter session of the Parliament later that year. Surrogacy Bill 2016 will legalize surrogacy in India, which exists in a legal grey area right now. Under the proposed framework, commercial surrogacy will be banned in the country. Only Indian couples with proven infertility will be allowed to take help of a surrogate mother. The bill also makes it illegal for any foreign national to seek surrogate mothers in India. Parents will only be allowed to meet medical bills of surrogate mothers and no other payments can be made. The new framework also envisions a national regulator to oversee clinics that offer surrogate services. The bill also guidelines for regulating clinics and hospitals that allow surrogacy. The Surrogacy Bill of 2016 also outlines rights of surrogate mothers over their infants and simplifies issues of parentage. It is proposed that candidates for surrogates will be limited to close relatives only and not others. The bill also has provisions for providing legal aid to surrogate mothers. The surrogacy issues need proper understanding for those who intend to adopt it. The perspectives involved in surrogacy, both from provider and user, have to follow the laws. Then the process of surrogacy will certainly bring happiness to couples who cannot have children by natural causes. Thank you.